list, I'm edging towards Matt Whitley.
Right.
I think he's impressed me the most of these guys. Tom Johnson, we knew about going into this year being a star player, and Ryan Sutton, I have expected a lot of since he made his debut for the Wigan Warriors. Maybe because I'm a Wigan fan, he hasn't flown under the radar for me. But Matt Whitley, I think, has flown under a lot of people's radars, and I'm really pleased to see him recognised in this way, because we've been following him all year since Jack Lewis got our eyes on him. We'd spotted him last year too, but Jack, firmed that up, didn't he?
He did indeed, yeah, absolutely. I like Matt Whitley a lot, and I think he's a very, very talented young man. I think the difference between him and Sutton and Johnston is that his uptick has been more pronounced, and that's why we feel so enthusiastic about him. I'm not sure in terms of contribution whether he has contributed more than a Ryan Sutton or a Tom Johnston. My vote will go with Ryan Sutton.
Okay.
I think in a year where your pack has been rocked with injuries at different times to different people. Your hook has been out all season, and Sam Powell's filled in admirably. But that takes something out of your pack. There's been players in and out all year and playing at varying levels inconsistently. But I think Ryan Sutton throughout the season has been your best prop, and has been consistently, and to be Wigan Rugby League Club's best prop, and to take that responsibility whilst others around you are losing your head. For me, the kid deserves to be Young Player of the Year. Absolutely.
I think he's probably
really like watching Tom Johnston
prop.
Right. Okay.
In every game he's played in, but he's had the most consistent level. But Tom Johnston. Sorry.
No, Tom Johnston's a phenomenal talent, and he for me is 18 months to 2 years behind where Denny Solomona is now potentially. So
almost exactly.
But in terms of his rugby league development as well. If he kicks on and develops in the way that Denny Solomona has done, in terms of what he's capable of achieving, then this kid's got a hell of a career in front of him. And we could well be talking about him, depending on how his season goes next year, he could well be the top try scorer. Very, very feasibly next year.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And then all of a sudden he puts himself, in the way that Denny Solomona has, into Man of Steel contention. So this kid's got a huge future, and all three of these lads I enjoy watching, but Sutton gets my vote for Young Player.
Okay, well, we'll find out next Monday night the awards dinner is, so we'll probably be recording the show as awards are getting...
We did that last year, didn't we?
So we'll see how well we can follow it along to make sure that we cover it in the show next week.
Yes, staying with that topic then, the 2016 Super League Dream Team has been selected, with 9 players making an appearance for the first time. In the star-studded lineup, 4 Super League clubs are represented this year, with Hull FC, who have 6, and Warrington Wolves, who have 4, dominating the selection, along with Cast Tigers is 2, and Wigan Warriors is 1 player. The Dream Team includes all 3 players shortlisted for the prestigious Steve Prescott Man of Steel Award: Gaz Ellis, Denny Solomona and Danny Houghton. The 2016 Dream Team in full then. Fullback Jamie Shaw of Hull FC. The wing Denny Solomona and Don Manfredi of Cass and Wigan. The centres Ryan Atkins and Mahe Fanua of Hull FC. Kurt Gidley and Luke Gale in the halves, with Chris Hill, Danny Houghton and Scott Taylor making up your front row, and a back row of Ben Curry, Mark Minicello and Gareth Ellis. Any thoughts on this one? Anyone you'd chop and change in and out of that?
Well, I think everyone will have their own views on it, and we're going to this year introduce the Super League Pod Listeners Dream Team, partly because I think this has been dominated so much by 2 teams, 2 flavour of the month teams, in terms of obviously in the final for the Challenge Cup, in what was essentially a final for the League Leaders Shield, and quite possibly will be in the grand final together too. So it's been dominated by the 2 teams. I think it kind of ignores the performances from other players outside of those 2 teams a little bit too much, this team, from my point of view. And so we're going to have our Super League Pod Listeners Dream Team. We're going to open up voting at the same time as we open up the Sloppies, which will be later this week. Start looking for links for that. Everyone in this team has had a great season and is deserving. The main 2 changes I would make is I would take out Ryan Atkins and I would put in Jake Webster. Because Ryan Atkins for me had a great back 2/3 of the season. I think earlier on in the year he wasn't quite as as strong. I think Webster's probably been a little bit more consistent throughout when he has been able to play. And then I would take out Mark Minicello, who I do think has had a really good year. I actually think, if anything, he's been slightly down on last year's performances from Minicello for me, overall. And the same sort of issues with him sitting there, that I don't think he's as good a defender as I expect him to be at this still. I would replace him with John Bateman.
Right.
Now, I know John Bateman has cost himself probably a Man of Steel nomination and a Dream Team place by,
through his own indiscretions.
Getting drunk and doing something stupid, something that we don't condone. The reason why I would give him some sort of take back from that is I don't think it was a situation where it was only one person. Although only one person seems to have been punished, I don't think it was a situation where there was only one person involved in what happened on that night. And I think he's been that good outside of those 8 weeks when he wasn't allowed to play because of his own stupidity and immaturity and what have you, that he should be in the side. For play on the field, he's been the best. He's been as good as Ben Curry has for me.
I can't argue that, and I absolutely think that he's been one of the best second rowers in the comp, but I can see why. Off-field behaviour cost him that. I'm less keen to argue for it, to be perfectly honest. And I do think that Minicello and Curry are very deserving of their places. And
of course.
Managed to comport themselves with a considerable amount more decorum than John Bateman did at that time.
There's probably another few people I'd be throwing mentions in for, like Hambry and Williams and Clark and Amor and people like that, who I wouldn't necessarily replace people in this side with, but I certainly think if they were in the side instead of people in this side, I would have been just as happy with it. What about you? Is there any changes you'd make?
Again, the only change I would really make would be I feel like we're bagging on Ryan Atkins here. I'd get Anthony Gelling in at the centres. I think he's been phenomenal for you guys this season. And look, I know he's got an error in him.
His defence isn't.
I'm not saying he's a perfect. I'm not saying he's a perfect player, but in terms of some of the explosivity that he brings and the growing influence he's had on your team this year.
Attitudinally, the team's really buoyed by the explosivity, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah, he's got a real bounce back ability factor about him, and I think that's about everything done. No, I was surprised not to see Anthony Gelling in there. I think he's a phenomenal. Probably
missed too much of the season. He's played 14 games out of the 30. 29 or whatever they played so far. 30 they played so far. He's missed half the season. I suppose that's the factor.
Possibly so. Hull FC stalwart Kurt Giemann is to retire at the end of the season. The ex-England international centre, who is 33, has played for the Black and Whites, his hometown club, for 15 years, making a sensational 371 appearances. August's triumph against Warrington at Wembley saw Giemann become the only player to win the Challenge Cup twice with Hull, having also been part of their victorious 2005 squad. Giemann's 176 tries make him the third highest try scorer in Hull's history. Giemann is discussing a potential future behind-the-scenes role at Hull. It was a really tough call to make. Playing rugby is all I've done since the age of 5, but as they say, all good things come to an end, he told Hull FC's website. It's been something that I've been thinking about for a while. I'm 33 and I'm not getting any younger. My body isn't what it used to be. These last few weeks, particularly after winning the Challenge Cup, confirmed it for me. He's had a remarkable season this year in particular, Kurt Giemann. I know that obviously he scored a lot of tries and for 15 years he's been a Hull FC stalwart, but you've got to think at the start of the year he was playing for Doncaster.
Bounce back ability in spades. Attitudinally.
So he must have displayed, attitudinally he must be bob on.
But in all seriousness, he's a Hull FC legend, and
played for his country.
He will be in
great player.
The conversation of all-time teams for Hull FC for forever more, I would expect, and deservedly so. Yeah. And he's been a really, he's been a top class centre in Super League for probably 10 of those 15 years. Yeah, exactly. You would say he's been in the best 5 or 6 centres in the competition. Yeah. This year, age has caught him a little bit, and he's been very helped out by the people around him in terms of the pace that people like Talanoa and Shaw and people have showed to make up for some of his maybe deficits, but leadership, defensive organisation, that sort of stuff has been there to certainly help Hull.
Indeed.
And he came into the side after they'd had the sort of up and down first 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, well, they lost those 3 games, haven't they? And
which probably cost them the League Leaders Shield when you think about it, when you track it all the way back.
That night in Widnes. Yeah.
But then you could argue that if that night in Widnes hadn't have happened, they wouldn't have turned around. But Kirk Eamon coming back into the side was one of those turning around factors, a leader on the field, a mature figure within the club, and congratulations to him on a great career.
Yeah, absolutely, and best of luck in retirement. Leeds Centurions have signed Carlisle Dragons forward Glenn Stewart on a 2-year deal starting next season. The 32-year-old former Australia back rower was 1 season into a 3-year contract with Catalans, but had been released for family reasons. Lee will play in the Super League for the first time since 2005 next year, after they finished second in the qualifiers. I'm not coming over for a holiday. I want to play my best footy and achieve things with this team, said Glenn Stewart. This is an enormous signing for Leeds Centurions. Bigger for me than Fufu Moi Moi, who came in a couple of years ago. It's
in that ballpark, definitely, yeah.
I think it's more important. I think this is a sensational piece of business for Leeds Centurions, and congratulations to that. If you're a Leeds Centurions fan waking up to the news that Glenn Stewart signed for you, that's massive.
Well, what I would say is, what sides in Super League wouldn't have been wanting to take him? Maybe Warrington and Wigan, maybe.
But even then, the experience and quality that he brings, he might try and find, even then.
He improves every single match day 17 in Super League.
Walks into every squad in Super League.
For the next year he does.
Yeah.
Maybe longer forward. I mean, he's joining the retirement society at Leeds Centurions.
That actually probably brings down the average age of their pack quite significantly. But it's a great piece of business. And if you're a Leeds fan, and we're going to be hopefully hearing from more Leeds fans over the next year or so as they contribute to Super League, this has got to be a real confidence builder, and it's a wonderful acquisition, I think, and it can't be overstated as a piece of business, I would say. Super League side Wakefield Trinity Wildcats have re-signed Huddersfield Giants fullback Scott Griggs. All I can ever hear now is Tim G. Oh no, Scott Griggs! On a 2-year contract starting from next season. Griggs has scored 57.
That's what Wakefield fans were thinking as well.
Scott Griggs, you brick of a bar, Scott. Griggs has scored 57 tries in 162 appearances for the Giants since joining from Wakefield ahead of the 2010 season. The 32-year-old previously spent 2 years with Wakefield after signing from Widnes in 2008. I'm excited for a change in my career after spending 6 years at the Giants, he told the club website.
I hope that change in his career is being a backup, because I think it would be...
Yeah, you've got young Max Jowett.
It would be a bad thing, a bad move if Max Jowett isn't given the number 1 shirt next year. Maybe not played in all the games, he's still young, he's still developing, he's 18 years old or so. But the kid's got talent, the kid needs to grow in that team, and I would make him the first choice.
I would say so. Do you get a bit more utility from Scott Griggs as well? He can fit into a couple more positions than you would say you would want Jowett to do.
He could... You would say he probably came through as a halfback, really, years before, and he played a little bit there for the Giants as well, hasn't he, over the years, to fill in. Maybe he can learn the centre spot. That might be a spot where they could do with someone experienced. I just worry that some of that grease will run off his head onto his hands, and he'll start dropping balls and missing tackles and stuff.
Not a problem I'm familiar with.
No?
To be perfectly honest. Where am I up to? Oldham have made their first new signing for 2017 with the arrival on a 2-year contract of prop forward Ben Davies. Most of his 37 games at the top level were with Widnes, and he then had a spell in the Championship at Halifax before going to Whitehaven, where he played 56 games across the 2015 and 2016 seasons. So good luck to that young man down in Oldham.
Yeah, good signing for that club. Player with top level experience, came through Wigan's junior system, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Joining Widnes.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, good luck to him. Toronto Wolfpack have revealed that Bob Bezic will be part of their squad in 2017. The 31-year-old Ireland international will combine playing with being head of strength and conditioning at the club. The hooker, who's currently at Lee, has won 25 caps for Ireland and is the current Wolfhounds skipper.
Great signing in terms of a leadership point of view. Now they need to start padding the squad out with some outside back talent and maybe some more mobile forwards, but they're moving in the right direction, aren't they? This is a leader for them now.
Yeah. potential club captain. Bradford Bulls have confirmed that the Toronto Wolfpack will not be sharing the club's training facilities next season. The Wolfpack was set to use the Bulls' facilities in Tongue in Bradford for their debut season. However, the Bulls have confirmed that will no longer take